Hi, TJ here from smokescreendesign.com. Got another video for you today. We're going to discuss the astronaut that lost her bag in the year 2008, and it was in November. And it's just kind of a crazy story if you ask me about what they did, what they came up with. And I'm going to show you just more evidence of how things don't line up unless someone can prove otherwise that this makes perfect sense. So let's go first to the video of where this astronaut lost her bag. And just getting this set up here. Here we go.
Oh, great. We have a lost tool. I guess one of my crew lock bags was not transferred and it's loose. Okay, Heidi, crew lock bag. Yeah. You see it? Yeah, we see it.
This is Mission Control Houston. Spacewalkers outside the International Space Station reporting that one of their tool bags being prepared for use with the Solar Alpha Rotary Joint cleaning has drifted off away from the space station. EVA flight controllers and flight directors assessing what this means for the rest of the EVA.
Discover with the wire tie and adjustable. Back out of 1106, getting ready to form a tether swap.
So there we go. Some woman lost her purse and now it's the end of space. ISS is going to come crashing down. Now, that in itself, probably not that big of a deal. Although still trying to determine if the bag does bounce off of the earth below. In that it's hard to tell. I've looked at it a bunch of times and can't really definitively say yes, it definitely does, so I didn't even cover that. So November 2008, CNN covered it, as well as a lot of people, that the astronaut, she lost her bag during the spacewalk. And so I wanted to discuss the problems with this whole story as it unfolds. So she's trying to clean it up and the bag floated away. Now if you notice something, that it's not just that the bag floated away, but to me when I look at this, let me get back here. I mean, the bag is falling down. So it's not just floating away, but it's actually falling down below her, which on one hand seems to be, see, that's going down. Or you could say it's going towards the earth. Well, should it be falling that fast? I mean, if they're out floating in space with zero gravity or very low gravity or whatever, that's a question that needs to be taken a look at and seriously considered. I mean, why is it moving so quickly away? Now, just by looking at it, it's not falling, I'd say, a free speed, but seems to be falling a lot faster than I think it would. So let's continue on with that. Let's see. Yeah, we don't care about all your story here. Now, oh, she was able to share tools with others. Not that big of a problem. Mission controllers were tracking the lost bag, which they say is floating well clear of this station and drifting further away. How is mission controllers tracking a bag? Now, stories that I remember, like in September 2001, planes turned off their transmitters, so we were not able to track them with radar. So 7 years later, we've got advanced radar technology where we can track bags the size of, say, book bags in space. So we can track a book bag 250 miles away. What about the Asian flights? Oh, it disappeared. You can't track it. Went off radar. Nobody can track that, but in 2008 we can track a book bag from space. Mission controllers can track that. Oh, let's see here. Keep going. Who cares? So that's introducing this story to you, and I'm going to unravel it a little more of this story and add some additional items into it. Now, we see here that backyard skywatchers, they find the tool bag lost in space. So I can go out back and I can look at in space and I can see a book bag floating in space. I can barely see what is called the space station flying across the sky, which looks similar to satellites, so to speak, flying across the sky at night. Looks similar to what could be airplanes flying across the sky at night. But what they're saying is I can track a book bag, I can watch it. So this article here is just a week later in 2008. So this one came out November the 25th. The one on CNN was November, is that the 18th? I don't remember. It's about a week later. So amateur astronomers have been monitoring a shiny tool bag that has been orbiting the Earth ever since it was dropped last week by an astronaut outside the ISS. So now we've got a tool bag orbiting the Earth, and backyard space watchers, amateur astronomers have been monitoring it. They've been watching it. So it's a magnitude 6.4, which under most sky conditions, oh, it's too faint to see with the naked eye. Are we seriously going to watch a book bag with the naked eye? Under most sky conditions, it's too faint. So does that mean there are sky conditions where I can watch a book bag float in space 250 miles up? Now remember how rapidly that space bag was floating down towards Earth, while the space station has no problem sitting in the exact location where it is. We never see the space station moving closer to Earth. It's always sitting at the same distance. It doesn't ever move closer. But this bag was rapidly, not free fall, it definitely looks slower than free fall, but was rapidly moving towards the Earth. How can this be? How can this be? Now, I think they're faking it all. I think they've got some type of screen, blue screen, IMAX type screen, and they've got this fake ISS either in the pool or whatever. And I think that they're faking it, and I think this shows more about that. So they have a tool bag that costs $100,000. I guess that material is pretty expensive, or maybe the craftsmanship. I don't know. Maybe that's really expensive labor. I don't know. $100,000 for that bag. So we'll just continue on. So once this tool bag floated away, they thought they'd see the end of it. No, not quite. Satellite tracker at spaceweather.com is now monitoring both the space station and the tool bag. Really? So now you've got spaceweather.com is monitoring the tool bag. Okay, that's pretty fascinating to me. I would like to know how they're tracking a book bag floating around in space. Not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it seems to me to be quite difficult to do, and I'll show you why. So after sunset on November 22nd, Edward Light, using a 10x5 binoculars, spotted the bag in space while he scanned the sky from his backyard in Lakewood, New Jersey. Spaceweather.com reported. On the same night, Kevin Fetter of Brockville, Ontario, video recorded the bag as it passed by the star Eta Pisces in the constellation Pisces. You've got to be fucking kidding me. These guys had binoculars and saw a book bag floating in space? A book bag. And this guy video recorded it? This got to be ridiculous. I'm going to show you that video here after I finish this one. So there's still more bag viewing opportunities are expected in space. It can be seen through binoculars a few minutes ahead of the space station's orbit. So this means that the tool bag somehow is in a race with the space station, and it is going faster than the space station because it moved ahead of the space station. Now it's going faster than it somehow moved faster and is either at the same speed of the space station or it's going a little bit faster than the space station. You can see it in front of it now. Given that, when I show you this video, oh geez, this is just ridiculous. Satellite tracker predicts that the bag will be visible through binoculars from Europe and Western North America during a series of passes this week. By late next week, the tool bag should disappear in the evening skies over most of North America. Like other space debris, the tool bag show will have a fiery end. We currently predict that the errant tool bag will fall back to Earth in June of next year. So I'm just curious, like they are predicting that this tool bag will fall to Earth by June. So we're saying November, December, January, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. They're saying 7 months this bag is going to orbit Earth. And then it's going to enter the atmosphere and burn up. So it's dependent upon solar activity, so an earlier or later date is possible. As the re-entry date draws near, a more accurate prediction can be made. The entire tool bag is going to burn up upon re-entry. So they haven't conducted a detailed re-entry survivability analysis for the tool bag and its contents. It is highly likely that no components will reach the surface of Earth. So they can take a shit can that they take a crap in, throw it out the window, drop it down to Earth's orbit, and know that that's going to eventually go back through the Earth's atmosphere and burn up. But this tool bag and its tools, well, we're expecting it to burn up. And, you know, we haven't really conducted a detailed survivability analysis to really say yes, it will or won't burn up. I mean, why do you need to do a detailed analysis when if a shit can burn up? How is this bag and these tools going to survive? Now it says the tool bag is not the only piece of space trash from the station. Other junk includes an unmanned Russian cargo ship and a massive ammonia coolant tank the size of a refrigerator. The coolant tank was intentionally tossed from the space station in 2007 and it burned up in the Earth's atmosphere earlier this month. So think about this. A coolant tank was tossed from the space station in 2007. It orbited the Earth for 2 years. And then it finally burned up in the Earth's atmosphere. 2 years. Now I don't know what month. It's possible it could be 2 years, 2.5 years. So this bag is expected to only last 7 months, but something way heavier than the bag lasts 2 years. That's a serious problem. Now, why am I bringing weight into this? Because they're supposed to be in outer space in zero or low gravity. because the only thing I can think of as to why this bag is dropping to Earth is because it's supposed to be the Earth's gravity still has a little bit of a pull pulling you towards the Earth. But if that's the case, then this coolant tank is bigger, heavier than this bag, and should have been pulled down in 7 months or less. But it was out there for 2 years. That's one reason why I'm calling bullshit on this. Now I want to show this video. Now when you're watching this, this is supposed to be someone recorded the bag orbiting Earth, and this was in space. Recorded this from their backyard. Now I want you to keep in mind, is this the ISS going by? Is this a satellite going by? Is this an airplane going by? Is this a UFO going by? Is this a star going by? They're telling us this is a tool bag, and I want to ask you, can you really tell what is going by? And would you be able to really see this if this was a book bag floating in space? And it's 11 seconds. It's going to go through the first time, and then the second time it'll go to slower speed. Seriously, you think that's a book bag floating through space? Is this even, maybe it's not even real. Maybe someone faked this. But a book bag going through space, how does this look any different than the ISS going through space, airplanes going through the sky, so-called satellites going through the sky? How is this any different? I mean, to me, it looks to be about the right size to be a satellite. You know, the light that goes across the sky rapidly. It looks to me it could be the same exact size as that, and we're calling it, it's the tool bag floating through space that we can see. So here in August of 2009, 9 months, just under 9 months, it took for this bag to orbit, enter the atmosphere, and burn up. 9 months. So one of my questions is, what pulled this out of space in zero gravity into the Earth's atmosphere? It's 250 miles up. What pulled this back down into the Earth's atmosphere? Now, if you say, well, it's the gravitational pull, then why doesn't the ISS get pulled into the Earth's atmosphere? Why doesn't the satellites get pulled down into the Earth's atmosphere? Why doesn't space junk? If you really think that all of these things have rockets on them to power them, to push them around, just think about just a little bit of power, what that would do to an object in space and how it would push it out of control. I mean, it would have to take a lot to really control these objects in space to keep them where they are. That little bag right there, people saw orbiting Earth. And this little bag, just a tiny bit smaller than what you see this space station in the sky when it goes over. Just a tiny bit smaller than the satellite. So I already talked about how it met its fiery demise after it was circling for 9 months, circling ever closer to Earth. It was a $100,000 tool bag. It burned up as it re-entered, according to the U.S. Air Force Joint Space Operations Center that was tracking it. And it's also tracking 19,000 other pieces of space junk in orbit today. 19,000 pieces of space junk it is tracking, and it could easily identify this space bag that is the size of a book bag. How in the world are they tracking 19,000 pieces of space junk? And that bag is just another one. Oh, we could easily track it, know exactly where it's going. And that doesn't include all the other items, whether it's 2,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 satellites, however many they have. All the things floating in space, they're tracking it all. Easily, no problem, easily identified. So here, the Joint Operations Space Center, amateur skywatchers, they all tracked the bag as it silently circled the Earth for 9 months. Easy to do, no problem, easy. So the center officials did not immediately have a specific time and location for the tool bag's ultimate demise, but a Sunday report by the Universe Today predicted the wayward space satchel would hit the Earth's atmosphere about 9:16 a.m. Eastern Time over the Pacific Ocean just west of Mexico. It says the tool bag was about 30 pounds. Don't care about the rest of that. So it said there was she gave this astronaut gave a talk, so there was a split second maybe she could jump for it and grab it, but then she realized it'd just make everything worse, and then they'd have two floating objects. I would love to have seen that. So she just let it go. So the space debris is a concern for NASA because it's a growing concern, and other space flight operators because of the unprecedented crash of Russia and American satellites earlier this year. So they had a smash up in space and created two new large clouds of debris that have been continuously tracked by the Department of Defense Space Surveillance Network. So there was a crash with a bunch of debris, and they are tracking all that as well. So it says this network is currently tracking more than 19,000 pieces of space junk larger than 4 inches. I mean, 4 inches is pretty small. 10 centimeters across. But an estimated 300,000 total objects larger than a ½ inch, 1 centimeter, are thought to be in orbit today. So out of 300,000 total objects bigger than a ½ inch are in Earth's orbit, and not one single piece has ever hit the space station. They have cleared every single piece of space debris out of 300,000. Not including anything else that should be coming from space. They miss it all. I mean, this is complete bullshit. Either they're lying about the numbers or they're lying about being in space, but there's no way that the ISS can miss all of these. Now let me ask you, how many satellites and space debris and junk have they been able to see from the space station? Well, we'll take a look at that. So it says her bag and other tools lost by astronauts in the past have typically posed little risk of coming back and hitting the aircraft in orbit. Well, of course, because it sinks. It sinks fast enough to where it won't hit it. So if a piece of space debris is expected to come close to the satellites or manned spacecraft like NASA's shuttle or the ISS, the vehicles can move ahead of time given enough advance notice. Out of 300,000 pieces of debris, satellites, and everything else, how do you get advance notice to clear something? Especially when you're doing 17,000 miles an hour and supposedly all the other space junk is doing 17,000 miles an hour. Even though we are told that the ISS moves at 17,000 an hour, not because of the Earth's rotation, but because of their own thrust, their own velocity that they are moving in. They've thrusted themselves that fast, and they have to maintain that. Did you know that? I thought they were moving that fast because of the Earth's rotation, and they were just sitting in one spot, and Earth was just moving really fast under them, but that's not true. But yet they tell space junk is moving at 17,000 miles an hour, or satellites are moving at 17,000 miles an hour, except for when they dock with their satellites and spacecraft that come in, then they can move really slow. I want to know how they're able to control their speed in space and their direction. I mean, that's a pretty massive object, craft, to be moving around in space to try to get away from 300,000 objects, from very tiny to very large in space. So the space station's most recent brush with a piece of space junk came July 17th, just hours after the Space Shuttle Endeavour arrived with a crew of 7 astronauts. They fired the Endeavour's thrusters to nudge the space station and move it clear of a piece of orbital debris that would have come within its safety perimeter. So what if the Endeavour wasn't there? How would the space station have moved away? Is this the first time that they've ever gotten close to being hit? How do they move that thing? I haven't seen any rockets on it. I've seen their video from outside. I've never seen anything blowing to move this space station. And whenever we see the space station, we always see clear pictures like this. Out of 300,000 pieces of space junk, space debris, I don't know if that includes the satellites or not, we should see stuff flying by, but we don't. We never ever see anything fly by this space station ever. And that's because this is not real. It's not real. And I'll show a video where they say, oh, we can't see because we move too fast and they move too fast. Well, the problem with that, out of 300,000 pieces, you should see stuff zip by really quick because you're up high enough to where you can see pretty far out there and you'd be able to see stuff zip by. It would zip by pretty quick, but you'd be able to see a lot of stuff zipping by. See it across the over your view of the Earth or whatever. And you should see a lot of sparkly stuff with the sun or the moon's light. You should see a bunch of sparkly stuff going by just like we would see at night. So let's take a look at what this video shows, that Google Earth, how many satellites there are. Real-time positions of 13,000 satellites, except for when I Googled, I'm pretty sure it said there was 1,300 satellites, but whatever. Look at all these satellites and you never see one, except for when they are coming into dock with the space station. You never see one, or when they're releasing one, you never see a satellite. But there are these many satellites out there. Do you seriously think that there are that many satellites in space that they can talk to and that they control, and they've got some kind of thrusters on them to where they can move them? And the ISS, space shuttles, none of those spacecraft will ever hit one of them. They don't have close calls every single day. This is going to be a short clip here, and this is where I'm going to talk about what they see.
I'm going to take our next question from YouTube. It's Simon Drubel, who asks, do you sometimes see falling stars in the atmosphere from the space station, or is it frequent, or do you see stuff like satellites in orbit? Thank you, from Belgium.
As a matter of fact, shooting stars we do see, there's one big difference. They're below us instead of above us. So when we're looking down at the Earth, we can see a little shooting star. Usually you don't see much movement other than the Earth slowly going by you. And so when it really catches your eye when you see a shooting star, a lot of movement there in the atmosphere. It's very beautiful. We don't see other satellites typically because we're all going very fast, 17,500 miles an hour. And if one's in an orbit near ours, in a slightly different orbital plane, we pass by each other very quickly. I've heard some astronauts have seen some go by, but it's a very rare event. Great question.
It's a rare event that they see a satellite. I've never seen them show us any pictures, or not pictures, but any video of falling stars falling below them. I like to see that. Now, these guys are swinging around like they're hooked up to something, and that should give you I mean, it's a red flag, really, of saying that this is fake. Like, this guy always has his knees pulled up, and he's always sitting up way higher than everyone else. This is so staged and fake. Watch how this guy rolls back like he's on some type of pivot joint or something, like right here across his waist. Let me see here. Let me get back here in the beginning.
For a voice check.
Station, this is a Google Plus Hangout. How do you hear me?
Google Plus Hangout, International Space Station. We have you loud and clear aboard. We have our own way of hanging out up here. Watch my buddies hang out. We're ready to hang out with you guys. Welcome aboard.
See, it's like, sorry, not his waist, but like up here in his shoulders, like he's hooked up to something to where he just has some type of joint or a pivot or something that's holding him up by his shoulders. Let's watch that one more time.
Clear aboard. We have our own way of hanging out up here. Watch my buddies hang out. We're ready to hang out with you guys. Welcome aboard.
See, there's something on his back that just let him like mechanically roll up and down. That was pretty fake. And I want to end with this video. This one is about how they track space debris. And let's see here. And if this, you just go over the information we just shared, and with this, then that'll tell you, I mean, really, this stuff it's all faked. It is really all fake, and this is what I will be ending with.
Space is slowly filling up with junk. As demonstrated on February the 10th, when a defunct Soviet-era Russian spacecraft collided with an American communication satellite, orbiting debris is becoming an increasing problem for spacecraft operators. Of the 6,000 or so satellites launched since Sputnik in 1957, only about 800 are currently active. Earth is therefore orbited by a huge number of disused spacecraft, as well as fragments formed when they explode or break up, and the discarded objects used to launch them, such as rocket stages. Space debris poses a serious threat to both space operations and, in the case of manned spaceflight, human safety. A chunk of metal only 10 centimeters in diameter could do untold damage to a spacecraft such as the International Space Station. For these reasons, the European Space Agency has a team at its operations center in Darmstadt, Germany, dedicated to monitoring debris and giving advance warning for operational ESA satellites.
Our current information sources, the major information source, is from the US Space Surveillance Network. They track anything which is up there larger than 5 to 10 centimeters in low Earth orbits and larger than 30 centimeters to 1 meter in the geostationary ring, which is about 35,800 kilometers away from us.
ESA is also a founding member of the Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee, which brings together 11 space agencies from around the world to tackle the problem of space debris. The committee's goal is to take active measures to preserve the space environment for future users.
Currently, people concentrate on reducing the growth rate of the current space debris population, and this is best done, first of all, by not launching as many objects into space, particularly the ones which are not useful, that is mission-related objects. The second measure is reduce explosions in space. This is, for instance, done by performing burns of the engines to get rid of the remaining fuel, which otherwise could explode. A second possibility is what's called space debris remediation, that is really curing the problem, and that is done by taking mass from orbit, and this you do by, at the end of the mission, deorbiting your satellite, which will then most likely burn up in the atmosphere.
ESA has also begun to acquire its own methods of detecting space debris, which will be combined with US readings as scientists painstakingly continue to build a space debris database. A powerful European telescope is already employed for these purposes.
ESA's Space Debris Telescope is a 1 meter size telescope, a very sensitive telescope that is located in the optical ground system in Tenerife on the Teide Mountain in 2,400 meters altitude. Its role is to observe the geostationary ring and to detect objects of very small size. It is sensitive enough to see objects of just 10 centimeter diameter.
And given the scale of the threat to the space environment, ESA hopes to expand upon these monitoring capabilities.
The ESA Space Debris Telescope can detect and follow up objects, so it has the capabilities to determine orbits of space objects accurately and maintain objects in a catalog. But in order to achieve a full coverage of objects in the geostationary ring, more than one telescope is required. To achieve this, we need a network of at least 3 telescopes well distributed in longitude.
The build-up of hazardous space debris is a situation that can be responsibly monitored and managed. With the combined efforts of the global space community, incidents such as February's collision can be avoided, or at least kept to a minimum in the future.